Okay. So, it's been a while, but as I like to say with these things, as long as everything is working the way that it should be working, we are now live. So, hello and welcome to everyone who is watching the Written Melanin channel, wherever this day may have found you. I'm so glad that you are here. It has been a while. It's been a while since we've done one of these. So it's exciting to be back. So hello and welcome to everyone who is watching. Shout out to everyone who's already in the chat. Jay Monet, Darian is here. Benjamin is here. Cherry Reese is here. Good morning. Hello. Y'all, we have things to discuss. We have so much to talk about. I feel like this is why the Melanin Chat is necessary, because stuff really be going on in the world. But I digress. I digress. Um, let's see here. I don't think the chat is working. So, Benjamin, if you want to come fix this, that would be fantastic because I don't know how to. But yeah, while Ben comes to be my tech person and fix the chat showing up on screen, or prefer rather not showing up on screen. Shout out to everyone who's coming in. Andy is here. Ash is here. Timothy is here. T.A. Summers is here. And Jay Monet said, like the live. You know, she said it, not me. So, yeah. Yeah. Um. Oh, wait. I can hear him coming. Here we go. Bianca is here. Good morning. Good morning. So, yeah. Ben's going to be in the background fixing this. And, yeah. It wouldn't be a Melanin Chat without technical difficulties. So, tell me, how have you guys been? Like, it's been like 6 weeks since I've done like a Melanin Chat. If you guys, I think the last live that I did was with Tatiana for the release of Return of the Sister Samurai. But yeah, yeah. Let's see here. Morning all, stealthily listening in between breaks. It's a Melanin Chat morning. It's a Melanin Chat morning. Do you know what's going on? Because it's not even showing up over here. It says 7 watching now, so maybe it's just slow.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe they need to type some more stuff.
Oh, Ben says y'all have to type some more stuff in the chat to see if it's working. So, how y'all been? Let's see here. Bianca said, I'm trying to survive this heat wave. It's awful. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hey, she showed up. There we go. It's working. There we go. Technical difficulties. Technical difficulties. Love this for us. So, round of applause to Ben for solving the problem. But yeah, it is crazy hot, honestly. Although my anemic self, I don't mind too much. I like the warm weather, not gonna lie, but I'm also the problem. So maybe my entire life I've just actually been preparing for global warming, and that's why I've been so cold my entire life. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm evolving. But yeah, let's see here. Darian said, "I'm ready for my day off." Ooh, I love that for you. Yeah, the day off for most people is what, coming up on Friday. So I'm looking forward to it as well. Ben has the day off, and we've got plans, so I'm looking forward to it. Let's see, avoiding my writing at all costs, but plan to lock in this month. Yes. Remind me to talk about that because I do want to give you guys an update as well. Autumn all the way. I hate the summer. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. I am a fall girly 100% of the time. 100% of the time. I like spring and I like fall because I'm like, it's not too hot. It's not too cold. You can open a window. You don't have to worry about allergies so bad. And it's just like you can wear shorts or you can wear jeans. Like you have the most options. And I'm just, yeah. Anyway, anyhow. That being said, now that Ben has things working, let's get into this melanin spotlight. Let's see here. Tia said, I'm trying to stay hydrated, cool, and dry because flash thunderstorms are also a thing. Yeah, there have been so many there have been so many more thunderstorms this year, and I was just like, this is not normal. This is not normal. But I digress. Staying on track. The Melanin Spotlight for this week is A Song of Legends Lost by M.H. Allende. And if you guys are in the Discord, which I believe most of you are, you know that this is our book club pick for the next DNF book club. So peep the mug. If you want one, you can get one from the Melanin Library store. There is a link down in place. So if you go to the subscribe button, click that, and look to the left, you should see where you can get a mug just like this one. Pink ones are for everyone. If you want a green one like mine, then you got to become a member. Sorry, that's a members only feature. But that being said, A Song of Legends Lost by M.H. Allende is actually one of my personal, like, most anticipated books of the year. I have been excited about this one since it's been announced. But that being said, let's get into the description for this book. An unforgettable tale of revenge and rebellion unfolds when a reckless king implements an ill fated plan to end a 1,000-year war in this relentlessly gripping, epic fantasy debut. A song of rebellion, a song of war, a song of legends lost. The people of Nine Lands know their history. The kingdom once belonged to the Scathed people until their gray blood servants rose up and slaughtered them. King Ahiki and his warlords laid claim to the realm by defeating the rebels and driving them out to the Feverlands. Now, thousands of years later, attacks by the Greybloods are rebuffed by the Invoker clans, warriors of noble blood who summon their ancestors to fight with them in battle. But the war has gone on too long. A general draft is called to take the battle to the Feverlands and defeat the Greybloods once and for all. A plan that seems doomed to fail. When Tammy, a commoner, accidentally invokes a powerful spirit, she believes it could be the key to ending the centuries long war. But not everything that can be invoked is an ancestor, and some of the spirits that can be drawn from the ancestral realm are more dangerous than anyone can imagine. So, I I'm thrilled, you guys. Like, I'm so excited. Y'all know that if you are interested in this book, there is a link so you can check it out from the Melanin Library. But I'm excited. I have this book as on my Kindle already. I will probably get a physical copy at some point because I actually just love the artwork. And I do want to let you guys know that Allende is scheduled to come on to the Written in Melanin podcast. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation. And if you guys want to submit your own questions, then again, join the channel, join the Discord. But yeah, so that being said, the next book club meeting where we will be talking about this book in particular is not in, we're in July, so not July, but August, last Wednesday of August, which I want to say is the 27th. I don't have the calendar up, so hold on. Yes, look at me knowing the dates. August 27th at 7 p.m. in the Discord. So you can get there by joining the channel or joining our membership. There's a link in the description box below. They get you the exact same thing. It just depends on how you want to join. So, that being said, you guys, that being said, there are things to discuss. There are so many things to discuss. Um, wow. Um, let's start with, I guess this is more so of, I don't know, like an announcement, a public service announcement. It's been all over my feed, but specifically, I've been seeing that obviously with everything going on, Libby and libraries in general are being defunded, but Libby in particular. And if you don't know, Libby is the app that most libraries have access to, so that you can get, your digital books, but they also have other resources like movies and music and things that you can get through it. That is being defunded, which basically means when you go to your library and you get a digital loan, most of the time they have X amount of copies. So, like, say they have 10 copies of a book, like the ebook version. If you want to read it, 9 times out of 10, you have to put a hold on the book because a lot of people are reading more these days, which is great. But that's not great for long lines. So, with this, essentially libraries are not going to be able to, one, purchase as many copies of the books, but they are also going to, they're not going to have like the financial sources that they need to continue with the app, is what I'm understanding. So if you use Libby, just be prepared for longer wait times and also a less diverse selection of books, because if they can't buy the books, then there's going to be more people requesting it to put it on hold and so on and so forth. So it's going to be a pain. I actually did my research. So if you want to read the actual announcement that I've been seeing on my timeline, there is a link down in the description box. It is link number 1. If you go all the way down to the bottom, it says relevant links. It is there. You can read it for yourself. But that, that is, I'm trying to keep my cool because there are very few things that get under my skin more so than like denying people access to resources, especially resources that the only person who is hurt by it are bigots and people who are very closed and narrow minded and just generally not conductive to being a part of a good human society, I'll say. And so this as a whole is just kind of like it really gets up under my skin. I'm just kind of like the people in charge, I just, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. But I digress. I digress. Let's see here. And they're already saying either the kids don't want to read or can't read, and it's that, it's that. So honestly, the big thing for me that I want to talk about is the children, right? Because if you guys didn't know, because I didn't know until Rose told me about it. So shout out to TA Summers for being in the chat and like keeping me abreast of what's going on in the world since I've been in my little corner minding my business. But the Supreme Court passed a ruling recently, and basically, what happened was a group of parents of different religions, like Muslim, Jewish, Christian, all that, got together and they were like, "Hey, we don't want our kids in this elementary school being exposed to inclusive books." That's literally just what it boiled down to, right? And inclusive books being, LGBTQ books in particular. So books where it's just like they see people of, people with two moms or two dads or whatever, right? And they took it to the Supreme Court, and essentially, and it was a what, six, 6-3 vote where only three people voted against it. And honestly, if you pay attention to the Supreme Court, you can guess which three people had the good decency to vote against this. But basically, they were like, they ruled that the parents have the right to opt out of any type of instruction that includes inclusive books so that their children are not exposed to it. If you want to know exactly how that is, I did link the actual Supreme Court ruling down in the description box. So again, it's down there. You can read it for yourself. There's also a news article that I read about it, kind of summarizing it to kind of understand the impact of what this means, right? But the reason why I want to talk about this is that as someone who was a teacher, as someone who taught elementary school specifically, like I taught second grade, this is such a terrible thing. This is such a terrible thing. Simply because there are two sides to this, right? There is one, the like repercussions for the kids, right, which we are going to talk about. But for a second, I want to talk about the teachers, because one of the things that was brought up is the administrative strain that this puts on teachers, because one, teachers are already massively underpaid, right? The amount of work that they have to do does not equate to how much they get paid. And a lot of schools, specifically public schools, are already underfunded, understaffed. So a lot of the books and materials and supplies that are in elementary school classes to begin with are supplied by the teachers. So to be like, hey, you can't bring in these types of books to read with, it's like, if you already have those books, okay, now like your classroom library that you've probably been building up over years can be like cut in half. Or worse, it's like if they're opting out, right? That means that the kids have to go somewhere else if that book is being read, which means you now the school is now has to be responsible for finding somewhere for those kids to go, or more likely than not, the instruction for everyone in the classroom has to change, because we're like, if you're, this is an elementary school, where are you sending a 6 or 7 year old while you're doing this? But on top of that, the issue isn't just that they're not going to be in the class and where they're going to go. This is probably the reading lesson for the day. So not only are they going to be missing instruction, they have nowhere to go. And it's just kind of like, it becomes a thing of, the best way that I can explain it is kind of like a peanut allergy, right? It becomes one of those things where it's just like, if one kid in the entire class has a peanut allergy, nobody can bring peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to class, like not a one. And that just kind of ruins it for everyone, you know? And it's just one of those things where I really have really strong opinions about it, because public school there's supposed to be a separation of church and state, and public school funded by the federal government is funded by the state, which means there really should be no place for religion to be infringing upon that. And I say that from the place of public school is garbage in the first place in America. So it's just kind of like, if you feel that strongly about what your kids are being exposed to take up your money in your arms to go fight the Supreme Court, take your kid out of public school, go put them in a private school, homeschool them, do what you need to do for your kid. But to say that, to make it so that literally no kid gets instruction or inclusion or sees representation of what their actual lived life is, because just because it's not in a book doesn't mean your kid's not going to be in a classroom with someone who has two moms or two dads, or who identifies as someone as part of this community. So you are literally taking steps to turn your kid into a closed-minded bigot, and I just feel like that is a problem. That is such a problem. um Taking a second to read the chat. Let's see here. Andy said I had to click out of that news article because I was starting to get too irritated and depressed. It really is something that will make you, it will make you want to choke someone. And the thing is, I am one of those people, like, to be completely clear and transparent, like, I do identify as a Christian woman. Like, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus. That is where I stand on that. But I also believe that other people in this world exist, and I don't think it's right to say that, hey, you should have no exposure to how anyone else in the world lives outside of your own personal lived experience, because it makes you uncomfortable as a person. And it's just like, you can have your religious beliefs, but I'm also like, if your religious beliefs don't stand up to anything, like if they're that flimsy, then are they really rooted, and do you really believe that? I feel like that's a personal issue that you need to take up, and not something that you need to push on to everyone else. But that's where I stand on things, and that may be an unpopular opinion. It's just, I don't believe in telling people that they shouldn't exist. I don't believe in pretending like they don't exist, because it's such a short, it's neighbors really, with being like, oh, I don't want my kid to learn about Black history because it makes my non-Black kid feel uncomfortable, it makes them feel less than. And it's just like, maybe your kid needs to contend with the fact that they are not the center of the universe. Maybe you need to contend with the fact that you are not the center of the universe, and the way that you live your life is not the only right way to live life and to walk through it. But I feel like so many people don't do that, especially the people in charge. And it's just like, how do you, like, imagine if all the Black parents got together and it's like, I don't want my kids taught about white history ever again, because it makes them feel uncomfortable, makes them feel less than, it makes them feel X, Y, and Z. And then it's just like, is that not infringing upon my rights? Because I feel like if we're going to take it to the left, we have to take it to the right. Like, it's two sides of the same coin. It's two sides of the same coin. And I feel like when you get into the point where you're saying, I don't want books read in an elementary school classroom, we have lost the plot. We have lost the plot. What is the point of sending the kids to the school in the first place if we're not going to teach them how to read? What is the purpose of sending the kids to school in the first place if they're not going to be exposed to things that they would not get exposed to at home, and meet different people and understand different perspectives? It's just like, we not aiming to live in a better world, a kinder world, a more understanding world? Because the thing is, hatred is taught. Hatred is taught, and it's intentional. So it's just kind of like, if that is where we're at, why bother sending your kid to school in the first place? Homeschool them, send them to a private school. There are plenty of other ways to go about this if you feel that strongly about it. You know, I just, yeah. Let's see here. Ash said, opting out of letting people exist freely will once again bite them in the tail, just like how everyone has to miss out on universal health care and free higher education, all to keep Black folks out. Exactly. And my thing is, it's just like, you're limiting kids to one perspective. And it's just kind of like, I don't know. The thing is with me, and I know that my perspective again is rooted in what I believe, but I'm just kind of like, if you believe God is real, you know that God is real, then showing your kid people who believe that God isn't real should not affect them in the way that you think that it is. You see what I'm saying? Like if you are raising your child, if you are taking the time to actually be a parent, if you're taking time to actually raise your child, if you're taking the time to spend time with them and to instill in them the things that you think are important, then it shouldn't be so flimsy that it's going to fall apart by a book. You see what I'm saying? Of people that exist in the actual world. You see what I'm saying? Because they are still going to run into those people, even if it's not in a book, right? They're still going to run into those people. So, what is it that you're accomplishing here? That's the real question. It's like, what is the actual goal? Because you're not removing them from the world at large. You're not protecting them from anything. You're just ill equipping them, right? I feel like it's the same argument too that when it comes to like sexual education in school, and it's just like, no, we're not going to teach them because then they're going to want to do it. And it's just like, so you're going, instead of teaching your kid about condoms, you're going to be like, don't do it, and then you're going to wonder why you end up with a kid who's pregnant. But you know what, I digress. I'm going down a rant. I'm going down a rabbit hole. It's just, when it comes to kids, I really, really, truly, genuinely believe that teaching them is the correct way to go, and denying them information and denying them access and denying them resources and just keeping them ignorant is such. I feel like that should be labeled as abuse. I feel like that should be labeled as abuse because I feel like that's negligence. I feel like it's intentional negligence, if that makes sense. But yeah, I wonder if they still do Scholastic like they did when I was a kid. I don't even know. I think they do still have the Scholastic book fair, but I am pretty sure that the authors who are able to be included in it are probably much more heavily screened than they probably were when we were kids. America's priority with the education has always been skewed, but it's getting so much worse instead of better. Yeah, at this point, it's just, I don't know. For me, I'm like, if I were to have kids, I would probably homeschool them. I wouldn't even bother with the public school system at this point, because it's just kind of like, at this point you're not getting anything. Like, you're likely to be dumber having gone to an American public school system than if you were to have just been taught at home, and it's just kind of like, again, having been a teacher, having understood the stressors that come with trying to teach 25 kids something, and they all learn at different paces in different ways, but you also have administration breathing down your neck being like, you need to essentially somehow manufacture the perfect picturesque on-screen classroom, and if you don't, then that's somehow a failure on your part. And you also need to find the time to make all the copies, create all the worksheets, be creative, and find all the materials that you have to fund yourself. But also, you're supposed to have time to contact every parent and have parent teacher meetings, but also have time to connect with each kid on an individual level, and there's so much stress that comes with it. And then it's just like, you're spending a good portion of your paycheck on materials for your classroom, and you're not even getting paid enough where you can live in a nice apartment. It's like, it's just, there's so many factors that go into it. There's so many factors that go into it. Also, Mags is here. Hello, welcome. Glad you can make it. They can't afford to put them in private school, so we all have to conform to them. And if you can't afford to put them in private school, then homeschool them. That's it. Like, if you want to raise your child, and this could be an unpopular opinion because I don't have kids, but if you want to raise your child a certain way, that is your responsibility as the person who had said child. That is your responsibility. And it is not your responsibility to tell anyone else how to parent their child, right? And it's not, and especially when it comes to education, access, and resources. It's like, if you want to deny your child the ability to read, if you want to deny them it's kind of like when it comes to music and TV. It's just like, okay, if you don't let your kid watch SpongeBob, that's cool, but that's not on you to tell every parent in the world that they shouldn't let their kid watch SpongeBob and to get SpongeBob pulled off of the air. That's what you do in your home is your business, right? And if something is accessible to everyone, but you don't want your kid to access it, it's not your right to then take away the thing in its entirety. Like, just because there's a river here and you don't want your kid drinking from the river doesn't mean that you should then figure out how to dam the river so nobody has access to it. You keep your kid from the river. That's fine. No one's going to judge you for that. Maybe you got a well at the house, whatever. But the minute you decide that you don't want your kid to have access to a public resource, it is not then your duty to make sure that no one has access to the public resource. Like that makes you a bad parent. That makes you the villain. That makes you the problem. That makes you the issue, you know? And it's just like there is no other way to see it. There is no other way to spin it. You are the problem. And it's crazy because again, I have religious beliefs. I understand if to a certain extent, I don't agree with it, but I understand if you're like, "Hey, I don't want my kid exposed to this and this." That's a choice. But by that same measure, you can't say that I don't think the other 24 kids in this class should be exposed to it either. That's not your decision to make. That's not your decision to make. You know? Let's see here. The thing is that the United States as a whole needs to contend with the fact it's not the center of the universe. It never has been. For us marginalized folks, we already here, so we exist. Exactly. Exactly. I wish folks would understand trying to erase history or not teaching. We're constantly in a never-ending cycle of it repeating itself. Exactly, and they know this. And the thing is, the people who are making this decision are trying to get history to repeat itself. That is the intention. I don't believe that any one of them is doing this with a pure heart. I don't believe that anyone is doing this with good intentions. I don't believe anyone is doing this thinking about the well-being of their actual child. I think that it's a much larger game, and they are trying to make sure that we are going back to something that we have already moved on from. Especially the people who are approving this. Even if the parents who brought it to them had well-meaning intentions for their kid, which I don't believe that they did, the people who approved it saw an opportunity to take it farther than what it is. And if you actually read the Supreme Court ruling, I always mess up her name. Kentanji Jackson Brown Jackson, y'all know who I'm talking about. In it, she actually included one of the books that was included like in the debate or whatever, and was like, she was basically like, look, we are making a massive mistake here, a massive mistake. And I'm inclined to agree. I'm inclined to agree. So yeah, we're going down a very dark rabbit hole, especially since they're trying to, I think, where was it, in Alabama or Mississippi, one of the deep South states. They were trying to make it so that they had to have the 10 Commandments posted in every classroom. And luckily they shut it down because, like I said, there's a separation between, church and state. They can't do that. That infringes upon other people's, freedom of religion. But it's also like, that is the agenda that they are trying to push. That is what they are trying to, quote unquote, instill in the children. And it's just like, we already got to say the Pledge of Allegiance in pretty much every school in America. Okay. Like, I don't think we're moving in the right direction. I don't think we're moving in the right direction. But homeschooling your kids or putting them in a private school is a privilege that not everyone has. And it's just like, if you handicap the public school system like they already have, then what choice do people have? Because Max hits the nail on the head. People in the U.S. Use school as a free babysitting thing and not an education thing, and that's exactly what it is. Because again, I remember being a teacher, and the thing is, I don't know if my not even I don't know. I know for a fact that the way that I view public school and parenting as a whole is definitely painted by the fact that when I was a teacher, I came in contact with a lot of parents. And when I tell you that there are a lot of people who have kids who do not love them, who do not care about them, who are just like, I have to raise them and that is it. Like, I have to feed and shelter them and that is it. Y'all would be surprised. Y'all would be surprised. It was rare to have a parent that was actually engaged with their kid and what they were interested in and like what was going on in the class. It was rare. Like, throughout the entire second grade, I would say that between all of the teachers, and there was like 5 of us, and each of us had like 25 kids, so y'all can do the math. But I would say that each of us had maybe 2 parents, if we were lucky, who were truly engaged with their kid and what was going on in the classroom. And that is in the second grade. We're talking about 7-year-olds. So you can imagine how much more detached they get as they get older. So it's just kind of like, they, I don't say they don't care, but in general, making a broad generalized statement, I would say a lot of parents do not care about their kids at all. At all. And they use it as free babysitting, because if your kid is acting up, that's not their problem. If their kid is sick, they will give them a Tylenol and send them to school sick. If their kid has was not with them over the weekend and has not been bathed, has not been clothed properly, they don't care. They send them to school anyway because it is not their problem for the 8 hours that they are in school. And when I tell you that teachers are expected to be moms and nurses and counselors and everything, like when teachers say that those are my kids, like there really is like an emotional bond there because you really do become the adult that they spend most of their time with, who realistically engages with them the most, who pays the most attention to them in a lot of their lives. And it's just kind of like that is a lot. And but the thing is, you also don't have any say over much, right? So it's like even if you think something is good for them, the most you can do is be like, "Hey, I suggest this" to the parent. But if they don't want to do it, if they don't want to listen to you, like there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. Like literally have parents be like, "So what do you think I should do? How do you think I should raise my child?" Like, and it's yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. Um, but yeah, they expect you to be like, oh well, it doesn't matter if their kid is falling behind. A lot of them don't care, and if you try to help them and you're like, hey, this is what you need to do at home to reinforce this, most of them will not do it. Most of them will not do it. But I digress. I digress. That's based off of my lived experience and the parents that I had to interact with, and it's a broad, generalized statement. I'm not saying every parent. I'm just saying that the ones that I had to deal with. You know. But yeah, yeah. Um, let's see here. Some of these parents are not even actively teaching their children outside. Most of them are not. The one again, generalization. Most of them are not. A lot. Of, y'all don't. I don't think people understand how on their own most kids are. Like you have good parents out there. I would say that most kids are not fortunate enough to have good parents. I would say that. I would say that. And it's not always on the parent. The stress of parenting without community now isn't helping either. And I think it's definitely that. I would say that part of the reason why I don't think a lot of parents are engaging and why I would say most of them are not being good parents right now is because they don't have community. Because the thing is, if we are going to talk about parents, we have to talk about the reality of how the state of the world that we're living in right now, you know? And it's the fact that you have to, most households need two incomes to survive. Like, that's just facts. Whether you are the single person who has two jobs or there's another person helping you, you need two incomes. So that level of exhaustion that comes with trying to financially provide to make sure you have a house, you have a roof over your head, you have food on the table, you have electricity and running water. And let's be real here, living in America, you also need a cell phone, you also need internet, you also need a car. Because if you don't have a car and you don't live in New York, you're up a creek without a paddle. You're up a creek without a paddle. And all of that requires money, and the most common way to get money in America is to exchange time. And when you have to exchange time for money, you also are exchanging energy, which does not leave a lot of time for you to do anything else, and that is by design. So if you do not have community, if you do not have someone to lean on, then you're stuck. You're stuck. You have a whole human being who needs you for basically everything, and you have nothing left to give because you've given everything to just keeping them alive. And if you don't have community, you have no one to rely on. You have no one to rely on. So it's all on you, and that is the type of thing that breaks you. And the thing that goes is, okay, for the next 8 hours, you're going to be in school. So at the very least, I know that you're okay. I know that you are somewhere safe. I know that you are with someone who cares about you. I know that you are somewhere where you're going to get fed. I know you are somewhere where your basic needs are going to be met. So I don't have to worry about it. And when somebody steps out of that carefully constructed circle, it's just like, this is not my problem. I cannot deal with this. I cannot deal with this. Unless they are actively hurting someone, I need you as the teacher to deal with it. And it's a lot. It's a lot. Let's see here. Every Wednesday in my area, they have a book bus come by only in the summer season, though, to give the residents books they can choose to keep and read. And that's great. But the thing is, a lot of kids, if they are not encouraged to read, if they are not made to sit down and read, they're not going to read for fun, especially when there is so many other distractions. Because even as adults, we have so many other distractions. We have TV, we have video games, we have movies, we have hobbies, and if you don't instill reading into a child, they are not going to do it. Some kids are going to naturally drift to it, yeah, but a lot of kids, the reason why they're like the kids can't read is because a lot of them are not encouraged to do so, and they messed up. Like, there was a time, okay, y'all, everyone watching this probably knows, but y'all remember Hooked on Phonics, right? They taught you the sounds of letters and how the letters combine so that you can understand and read bigger words. And the whole purpose of Hooked on Phonics was so that you could, if you came across a word that you didn't know, you could piece it together and figure it out. That's why a lot of us who are readers pronounce words in really crazy ways, because we're like, we've seen the word, we know what it means, but we don't know how it sounds because we've never heard it, but we've been reading it a certain way in our mind, right? Well, part of the reason that the kids can't read, that is a literal thing, because at some point they decided to do away with Hooked on Phonics and they decided to go with sight words, which is all about recognition of patterns. And it's just like, that's cool for like kindergarten and first grade where you have a vocabulary of like 500 words, but that does not work when you get up into the higher grades or even into like, higher level reading. Like, these kids are literally not equipped to know how to read hard words. Like, they literally do not know. No one taught them how to read words that they don't already know. And that is a disservice. And I remember getting in trouble. Like, I got written up for a lot of things in when I was teaching second grade, and most of it was things that were beyond my control. But one of the things that I got written up for sure was because in my reading classes, I taught them phonics. I was like, I don't care what this curriculum says. I'm not teaching you sight words. Like, I will teach you sight words, but I'm going to teach you how to freaking read, man. Like, if you have, because imagine you have dyslexia and everything is sight words. How, how are you supposed to read, bruh? How are you supposed to figure this out if when you look at the words, they literally do not look correct to you? That's insane. That's insane. And you're not teaching them skills. Yeah, they're going to be below reading level. What the heck? What the heck? Anyway, I digress. I digress. Um, School is not about equipping kids to be successful. It is about desensitizing them and teaching them how to sit in a chair. Like, you have a successful classroom if all your kids are in a chair at any given time. That's literally what you are judged on as a teacher. Are your kids quiet? Are they in a chair? Like, you can have terrible scores as long as your kids are quiet. But if you have great scores and your kids are loud, oh, you're going to get written up. And I know this for a fact because that was literally my life. My kids were like loud and rambunctious because literally out of 25 kids, I want to say that like 18 of them had diagnosed ADHD, and I got written up because we were very rarely sitting in chairs whenever the principal came by to like do a spot check or whatever, and I always got written up for it. But I'm like, it is after lunch. They have been in the school for like 6 hours. Okay, it is after lunch. It is after recess. How the heck do you expect me to keep all of these hyperactive kids in a freaking chair? So yeah, we're walking around the room, we're doing activities, we're doing the best we can, but despite the fact that my kids had good grades, despite the fact that we were literally behind the gifted kids in like test scores for the state, I still got written up constantly because they weren't in a chair. They weren't in a chair, they weren't quiet. So I digress. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. But yeah. Also, I wanted to say Tanise is here. Hello, welcome. I saw you in the chat, ma'am, but I didn't get a chance to say anything. So hello. Hello, hello. So yeah. Yeah. TA said it's a lot to raise kids for sure. I think folks don't realize the amount of investment that takes, and some undermine what it takes to do it well. Worse, they treat the kids as a means to an end. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I don't have kids, but having been around kids most of my life and as an adult being in charge of kids for a brief period of time, but also seeing my brother, raise his son, it's just like, it takes work. It is not an easy thing. And I think it's kind of like, ironically, this sounds so bad and I don't mean it that way. I think it's definitely one of those things where people think about getting a puppy, and they're like, oh, it's so tiny, it's so cute, it's so fun. And then it's just like, okay, but are you going to have patience when that puppy pees on the floor? When it has to go out 5 times, when you have to teach him to go outside and not go in the house. Also, Margaret is here. Hello, welcome, love. Glad you could make it. Bianca said I have to leave for work. Work is getting complicated, but I'll come back later to hear the rest. Have a good day, Bianca. But yeah, it's like, you have to think about the fact that you are bringing a life into your life, you know, and that life is going to have personality, it's going to have thoughts, it's going to have opinions, it's going to do things that you cannot control, and you have to be willing to accept that, right? And when you have children, it's just like you are going to be responsible for them. And people always say for the next 18 years, but really when you're a parent, you never stop being a parent. Like it doesn't magically become like, okay, you can now vote and therefore you are no you no longer need parents. That's not how it works, right? And it's just kind of like I don't think people understand that it's just like it's a lot. It's a lot. And a lot of people rush into that decision foolhardy, right? And don't think about the repercussions. So yeah. I think if people really cared about the kids and the books, they would care more about the communities and the support systems because you still have people arguing that, you know, school lunch shouldn't be free. That kids should not get breakfast and lunch for free. And it's just like they are legally obligated to be there. They have to be to get there. Because I promise you, if you ask any kid, a lot of them don't even want to go to school. A lot of them are there because they have to be there. And you're telling me that these kids who are legally not allowed to get a job, legally cannot work, legally cannot generate their own income, you want to send them to a place where they have to be, and then you want to charge them for food? And then be like, well, if you have no money, you get no food. Like, what kind of weird, twisted mentality is that? And then also, just so you guys know, it is. I didn't know if you can know this, but I know that it's true in Texas at the very least. It's illegal for teachers to pay for kids lunch. Like, you can't do that. So it's also like they also have rules in place where people with means cannot help the kids without, right? So it's just kind of like I think there are a lot of people who hate kids and would like to see them suffer. And they want children to pay for the sins of their fathers. And it's just kind of like that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. But I digress. I digress. Let's see here. Let's face it, all these defunding is just to make sure they don't realize their agency. It's literally that. Because the thing is, we've kind of seen what it looks like when you have a younger generation who has access to worldviews and information outside of their lived perspective. There, I don't know if it's still happening because honestly, I don't interact online nearly as much as I used to. But there was like, at least on my feed, a wave of like specifically, what are they? Gen Z, Gen Alpha kids who are going no contact with their parents because they're like, oh, you're the problem. Oh, you're racist. Oh, you're misogynist as all get out. You are the problem. You don't love me. You don't respect me. You don't respect other people. You don't respect differences. And you know, there's a wave of people realizing like, oh, you were the one throwing rocks at Ruby Bridges for going to school. You were the one spitting on people on a bus because they were sitting there. You were the one who has completely royally effed all of us over in this economy in this generation because of your greed and your selfishness and your bigotry. Like the reason we don't have public swimming pools is because of you. Yeah, you are the problem. The reason why we don't have train systems or public transit is because of you. Yeah, you're the problem. You're the problem. The reason we can't afford a home, the reason why we cannot afford shelter is because of you. Yeah, okay. And they're just like demanding accountability, but that comes with information. Information is power, and information has always been the transaction that people have tried to limit, you know, in the world because they know this. They know this and they don't want their kids holding them accountable. They don't want their kids looking at them and seeing all their flaws and their disgusting parts of themselves because you're no longer the hero. You get knocked off of your pedestal really quick. And when your kids are demanding accountability and they're like, either you're going to be better or I'm never going to speak to you again, I don't think a lot of people take that seriously until their kids are like, I haven't talked to my mom in like 5 or 6 years. And then that's what it is because they're also getting older. And they're also being like, who's going to take care of me? Because their kids are not talking to them. And so now they're trying to set it up where it's just like, no, they won't know. They won't know. But that's my conspiracy theory. That's me. But I know that I don't know. I know there's a little truth to everything, you know? But my biggest thing is I believe information really is power. And I feel like keeping information from kids and intentionally keeping them ignorant is a problem that needs to be addressed. Um, let's see here. Annie said, I just feel so bad for the upcoming generations because, whew, yeah, yeah. And now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned, only more unprepared people are going to end up with kids. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's what they want. That's what they want. Because if you can't afford to have kids, but you also can't afford to not have kids, right? You can't afford to be safe and to protect yourself, then you are going to perpetuate a cycle of constantly being at the bottom tier and for working, and you have to work, and that means that the rich people have a class of people to continuously exploit. That is literally the purpose. That is literally what they are trying to do. And it's just kind of like, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? And the people, and the thing is, this crazy thing about America is that we have systems in place to keep things like this from happening, but so many people are rooted in their bigotry that they don't even understand that the things that they are voting for are things that affect them. That's why we have in currently in this big old age of 2025, people being like, I didn't know that it was going to affect me. It's like, oh, you thought it was going to affect everybody else and you're okay with it. See, that's the problem. You lack empathy. We live in a world where people lack empathy, where they don't understand or care or respect or appreciate the value of another life. They don't appreciate their neighbor. They don't care for their neighbor. And they're like, I want bad things to happen to somebody else, but when bad things happen to them, they suddenly want everyone to care. And it's just like, it's not about you. You're not the center of the universe. And you should have cared about this when people were telling you that it was going to be a problem. You should have cared about this before it happened to you. But now that it is happening to you and nobody cares, you want to sing a different tune. You know? It's just kind of like, you did this to yourself. You did this to yourself. You did this to all of us. And now we have to live through this timeline that you actively created out of your hate and your racism and your misogyny and your bigotry. And now what are we going to do about it? Now what are we going to do about it? You know? Um let's see here. Darian said, I'm afraid the future is going to be like the movie Idiocracy. Everyone just dumb. Oh yeah, we're already there. We are already there. I could tell you with the 21-year-old, we in this for life. Yeah, and the thing is, I'm 30 and I still talk to my parents. I still need my parents. Like, I don't think you ever get to a point where you stop needing a parent, where you stop needing an adult, where you stop needing guidance, where you stop growing. Everybody needs to grow. Everybody needs help. Everybody needs someone to lean on. Everybody needs someone to go to with questions. Even if you lose your parents, you usually have another adult in your life that you go to. And the people who struggle a lot in life are the people who don't have people like that in their lives. And it's why having a mentor and somebody who cares about you is so important. So important. I'll say it again, folks, read and watch Dystopia and don't learn anything. Nope. Nope. The thing is, so many people think that they're Katniss, and it's like, no, you're actually bystander number one that didn't even have a name in the book, who's just standing in the crowd. You are the crowd. You are the sheep. You are the one that's being herded. You're the one going along with this. You're the one quietly praying that they don't pick you, that they don't pick anyone in your family. You're the one going along with it. You're not the rebel that you think that you are, because if you were the rebel that you thought that you are, you would at least go vote, when that's completely private. That's completely private. There is no risk. Okay? So it's just like, everyone wants to think that they are the hero of the movie, the protagonist, and it's just kind of like, you're just bystander number A. Being the protagonist means taking risk, means being willing to face the danger, and everybody's not willing to do that. You know? Let's see here. I saw a Teen Vogue article that was great, talking about that topic: no contact kids finding community in other spaces. The thing is, I think everyone needs community outside of their parents. I don't think you should go, I'm not advocating for going no contact with your parents unless you need to, right? But I also think that it's important to have community outside of the people that you have always known. Because one of the things that I will say, because if anyone knows me, it's like, I'm not like an advocate for college, right? I think there are benefits to college. I think that it is a good path forward. I don't think college is for everyone, but I do think that one of the most impactful things about college that is good for everyone who attends is the fact that when you go to, especially if you go to a university, right? Community colleges are a little bit different because it is in a community, but the thing is, when you are in a space where you are forced to talk and learn from and contend with people from all different walks of life, your worldview is opened, your worldview is challenged, and it really forces you to contend with yourself and the things that you believe and the way that you think, and to question things in a way that you most likely have never had to do in your life prior to that. And I think that is real benefit, and I think that is the importance of community in general. You need people who think differently than you, so that you understand that so that you can understand why you think the way that you do and why you believe what you do. Because again, going back to what I said at the beginning of this, if you have beliefs and they are never tested, there you don't know how rooted they are in you. And if you really believe something, or if you were just told something and you ran with it, I think that is the problem. That is the problem, you know? But yeah, I'm clocking all of this for my writing. My writing is going to be therapy for me at this point. Writing is always therapy, so I believe in believe in that wholeheartedly. Let's see. Margaret said, "Saddled with debt, leverage to the overclass. Why do I always hear underclass but never overclass? Is it called something different? Superclass, the empathyless elite? Anyway, I have no idea. I have no idea. Hate is yeah. A lot of people see hate is more important than empathy. Yeah, I say it all the time. Empathy is gone. Folks are so selfish and caught up in themselves. Like, please care about other people. You have to care about other people. You have to care about other people. And if you don't, you are the problem. You are the problem. Because the thing is, people say like to say Rome was not built in a day, but Rome wasn't built by one person either. Like, there are so many things that you cannot do on your own. And if you live in 2025, you have to understand that there are so many things that you need people and support for. You know. Um, I didn't think it was going to happen to me. Meanwhile, the leopard already ate your mom or your cousin in your neighborhood, and it's after you. That. Um. Let's see here. Um. Yes, I'm 30 and still call my mom and dad because sometimes you need an adultier adult. Literally that. Literally that. Sometimes you need somebody who knows what they're doing better than you do. Um, Everyone needs community and folks to lean on. Let's see here. I heard a friend mention their mentor recently and went, "Oh, wish I had one of those. I am too old." Am I too old? You're never too old for a mentor. You're never too old for a mentor. And the thing is, I don't even think your mentor has to be older than you. I just think your mentor has to be further along than you, than whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. Because just like, I know that in writing, I have a career, right? So it's just like, if I'm 30, even if I were to meet someone who was 40 or 50 and they're working on their first book, I can still be a mentor, right? But in when it comes to writing. However, on the flip side of that, if I'm looking to be like, oh, I want to travel the world, I want to be like a digital nomad, I would need to find someone who's done that and has successfully done it, to be like, hey, I have questions. How do I do this? But when it comes to life in general, like, I definitely go to my parents. And the thing is, I'm very fortunate because like I have my parents, but I also have Ben's parents, and so that's like six adults that we have to go to be like, hey, what are we supposed to do? Like, how do we handle this? How do we navigate this? And I realize that I'm very blessed to have them in my life. But it's also one of those things where it's just like, you gotta ask somebody. You gotta ask somebody. And I feel like it kind of goes back to that old adage, that old adage in school where it's like there's no such thing as a dumb question. It's like, if you don't know, you don't know. You know, you gotta ask. You have to ask. Mentorship, and even, peership, right? Aligning yourself with people who are on the same level as you, going in the same direction, is so important. It's so important because sometimes you need to know that even if you're in your own lane, we're all going in the same direction. We are all going in the same direction. And you just, no one is successful in isolation. I'm not saying you can't do it in isolation, but no one is successful in isolation, because even when you look at the most successful people in the world, everybody has doors being opened for them at some point or another. You cannot bulldoze your way through every door that you come across. Sometimes it takes finesse. Sometimes it takes connection. Sometimes it takes networking. Sometimes it takes smiling and talking and getting to know people in a way that actually matters. You know, like that. Y'all don't understand. When I say community is important, it's so important. It is so important. I'm always gonna need my mom. She needs to become immortal and never leave me. Literally that. Literally that. I don't even read dystopian anymore because I've learned the lesson and no one else has. I don't read dystopian at this point because it it's exhausting for me. I just, yeah, I can't do it because it hits too close to home. It's too close to reality. It's too many things that I can relate to, you know? Um, mentorship is so important. We've really lost that natural tendency to guide each other. I gotta go, everyone. This was an intriguing conversation to start the day. Take care, stay cool and hydrated. Have a good day, Tim. I hope you have a great day. Peers are definitely a lifeline. Absolutely. But that being said, you guys, it is 12 o'clock. It's time to move over to the after chat. So if you don't know, the after chat is a chat after the chat where we move over to the Discord and we have a very honest and candid conversation within our community. And it also gives you access to the community the rest of the time when we're not streaming. We also have writing sprints, and we are working on getting some writers workshops and things in the future. We also have the DNF book club. Like, we hang out, we do writer bookish things. So if you would like to join, $5 gets you in. You can click the join button down in the corner next to the subscribe button. That gets you access to the Discord server and the community as a whole. And yeah, that is it. If you guys are interested, I guess slight plug to go ahead and get my books or tell someone about my books. I have definitely been writing in this season of not streaming. So that's where I've been. If you haven't already, please go ahead and tap the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss when we go live again. And for everyone who is in the after chat, I will see you guys over in the Discord server. And that is it. Until next time, I hope your days are lovely and your books are interesting. Bye, guys.